That's Mike Wood. Let's go and talk to Conservative MP for Lichfield, Michael Fabricant. Michael, afternoon, evening.
Good afternoon. I'm very grateful, by the way, to you and BBC WM, because if it hadn't been for this appointment to be on the radio with you, I would have been standing too in number 10 Downing Street, getting absolutely drenched. I'm actually not far from Downing Street at the moment. I mean, literally about 100 yards away, and it's teeming down. And still, the Prime Minister hasn't arrived because, as you quite rightly said, she's in a cavalcade at the moment, coming from the RAF Northolt.
The cars are just turning into Downing Street as we speak, Michael. But we're going to hear in the next half hour from the new Prime Minister. But how big a job is this?
Well, I agree with Mike Wood. It's going to be a big job because there's so many big things that have to be resolved. And the most important of all, of course, is the cost of living crisis. They've gone into recession already in Germany, and people just can't afford to pay the fuel costs that people are currently getting bills on their doorstep for. And she knows, I've spoken to her about this, she knows she has got to deliver. Otherwise, not only will she not win the next general election, we won't deserve to win the next general election.
Well, the Prime Minister is just walking towards 10 Downing Street in a dark blue dress and about to address all the journalists and ministers, because she's set to name a cabinet. You're going to be in the cabinet, Michael, or not?
Oh, I've made it very, very clear that, I have no interest in being the most junior minister because, I was in government for 2 years, and before that I was in shadow government for, I think it was 7 years, and you can't speak your mind. And I think one thing Paul, is I always speak my mind. And so I've had enough of, I enjoy, being able to go on the radio when you guys want and not when the grid at number 10 says I can go on. And I hate, being told what to say. I like just saying, what I want to say.
When we look at what's likely to come in terms of energy, I don't know whether you know anything, Michael, but we're hearing that the energy bills could be capped at something like £2,500. Full details expected on Thursday, but the plan, potentially, we're talking over 100 billion being added to government borrowing, but it would provide stability for consumers and particularly businesses who have no idea where they're going at the moment.
I don't think it's going to cost quite that much. The sort of figures you're talking about, will have to be confirmed. There's actually a system whereby the utility companies this is what we think will happen. The utility companies will be able to borrow, not get a grant from the government, partly. This is the scheme that I'm hearing, but then, I might have my ear down to the wrong door, if you like, so I may be getting wrong information. Oh, you're too kind, Paul. But what I'm hearing is, I won't go too much into the technicalities because it's boring, but basically the government will actually lend the utility companies money so that they can reduce the bills, and then it'll be spread out. Part of it will be repaid over many, many years when hopefully the Ukraine war and Russia have been dealt with one way or another, and we can return a little bit to normal.
Stay with us, Michael, because I just want to go live to Downing Street and let's dive into what the Prime Minister's saying.
Growth and investment. I will drive reform in my mission to get the United Kingdom working, building and growing. We'll get spades in the ground to make sure people are not facing unaffordable energy bills, and we will also make sure that we are building hospitals, schools, roads and broadband. Secondly, I will deal hands-on with the energy crisis caused by Putin's war. I will take action this week to deal with energy bills and to secure our future energy supply. Thirdly, I will make sure that people can get doctor's appointments and the NHS services they need. We will put our health service on a firm footing. By delivering on the economy, on energy and on the NHS, we will put our nation on the path to long-term success. We shouldn't be daunted by the challenges we face. As strong as the storm may be, I know that the British people are stronger. Our country was built by people who get things done. We have huge reserves of talent, of energy and determination. I am confident that together we can ride out the storm. We can rebuild our economy, and we can become the modern, brilliant Britain that I know we can be. This is our vital mission to ensure opportunity and prosperity for all people and future generations. I am determined to deliver. Thank you.
That's Liz Truss in Downing Street Live, just finishing off that speech. So the economy, the NHS you mentioned there, and energy supply, and long-term energy supply, Michael, is a key issue, because you can support it, you can borrow money, you can have a deal with the utilities, but that can only go on for so long. We've got to be more self-sufficient.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Paul. But interestingly, I read an article, it wasn't interesting because I read the article was interesting, saying that actually by 2030, all right, that's 8 years off, but 2030, we will have a huge energy glut, because the UK, more than any other European country, has got wind energy, solar energy, and by the time all the schemes are completed, we will be developing storage systems, big batteries, if you like, by compressing air and then driving the turbines to generate the electricity when the sun isn't shining and when the wind isn't blowing. And we will have more energy than we actually need, and we'll be selling it abroad. But yeah, these things have to be resolved sooner rather than later.
Saying is one thing, doing is another, and the Prime Minister will be judged over the next couple of years before
That's right.
general election, Michael. So are you confident in Liz Truss to take the party forward, to unite the party? Because clearly with the voting between Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak, and whatever happened to Rishi Sunak is probably going to be a film made in the near future.
He's probably going to go to America and make a fortune.
Well, he's already got one, but the party being united...
Another fortune. Yeah, I mean, one thing the Conservative Party realises, and if they're not, they're fools, and that is, if we don't unite now, I mean, we've wasted, 6 weeks with an election campaign. We've now got to get a grip, and as I said earlier, if we don't deliver and if we don't unite, we won't deserve to get re-elected. So I believe that every MP knows that, whether they backed Liz, whether they backed Rishi or whatever. I mean, don't forget that I wanted Boris to stay, and I know that's controversial, but...
Well, you weren't alone, were you?
No. But after he resigned, and it's quite interesting, by the way, that although a lot of MPs didn't want him to stay, all the polling showed that if Boris had been allowed, or wanted, come to that, to be on the ballot paper among Conservative Party members, he would have won. He would have won a landslide and got re-elected as the leader of the party. But, of course, that was not the case. I then backed Penny Mordaunt, and when Penny Mordaunt dropped out, I backed Liz. Look, one thing I do know, and I'm going to be a bit controversial here, Rishi was not that helpful to the West Midlands. I know that Andy Street had some issues. He won't say it because he's more of a gentleman than I am, but I know that Andy Street had some issues with Sunak not returning calls, his staff not returning calls, Andy Street's staff, and this has never happened before with the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and I was worried, if he was like that as Chancellor, what on earth would he be like as Prime Minister? Whereas Liz, I know, has been in very, very close contact. I'll let you into another secret. I've been on a walking holiday in North America with Andy, and the number of phone calls he got from Liz Truss was remarkable. So they're already in very, very close contact, and I know there are a number of projects underway, some of which will be announced at the Conservative Party conference, which very fortuitously, and she's very excited about it because there was a thing last night with Liz, some of these projects she will be announcing, I believe, at the Conservative Party conference in Birmingham. But what they are, I didn't ask her, and Andy Street hasn't told me. It's got to be a surprise.
Well, it's still a sort of surprise, but we're now expecting a lot, and major cabinet appointments to be made in the next 24 hours, and that also is going to be crucial because clearly you talk about not returning calls from Rishi Sunak, whoever the Chancellor is, you'll want a bit more phone calls returned.
Oh, I'm quite sure that'll happen. I have no doubt about that. I mean, rumour is that it will be Kwasi Kwarteng. Whether it will be or not, I don't know. But I know that Andy already has a good relationship with him. So that's good. And I've got a good relationship with him because it's not just the West Midlands Combined Authority area, but of course you've got Lichfield, my constituency, where it's not in the Combined Authority, run by Mayor Andy Street. We're a Shire county, and we've got good contacts with both Kwasi Kwarteng and I've got a very good relationship with Liz Truss.
It's going to be a fascinating, week, but also a couple of years. Michael, good to have you on the show.
It won't be boring being a political broadcaster, I can promise you that.
No, I'm taking you at your word. I'm sure you're right. Conservative MP for Lichfield, Michael Fabricant.